The orchestrated chaos. Trump, Netanyahu, and the brewing firestorm in the Middle East history rarely unfolds by accident. Behind the curtain of diplomacy, secret deals are forged, and wars are planned with cold precision. The latest attack, carried out under the joint strategy of Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu, is not a spontaneous response to threat, but a long-orchestrated move, masked by the theater of negotiations. Their alignment, a partnership forged through the shared ambitions of empire, ideology, and energy, has once again thrown the Middle East into a dangerous spiral. The illusion of peace, negotiations as a smokescreen during Trump's presidency, while the world was distracted by the so-called Abraham Accords and peace overtures, preparations for confrontation with Iran were quietly intensifying. In reality, the Accords were a geopolitical chess move to isolate Iran regionally by aligning Sunni Arab states with Israel. Simultaneously, U.S. military presence in the Gulf expanded, and strategic assets were moved into position. Trump, while claiming to end forever wars, increased drone strikes, authorized the assassination of Iranian General Qasem Soleimani in 2020, and empowered Israeli aggression by greenlighting annexation talks and vetoing any criticism at the UN. This aggressive alignment reached new depths with Netanyahu, backed by a powerful Israeli lobby in Washington, AIPAC, and affiliated groups. Trump's administration essentially outsourced Middle East policy to Tel Aviv. Iran, caught in economic suffocation from maximum pressure sanctions and internal unrest, became the perfect scapegoat to unify hardline factions in Israel and the U.S. under the guise of national security. Iran's dilemma, a regime. Cornered Iran's response has been restrained, not due to a lack of capability, but because of political paralysis at home. Facing a disillusioned population after years of economic hardship, corruption, and brutal crackdowns on protests, e.g. the Mahsa Amini uprising of 2022, Tehran fears that any escalation could trigger a revolution from within. The ruling clerics are not blind to history. They remember the Shah's downfall in 1979, and they see parallels today. Iran's symbolic drone attacks are less a threat and more a desperate performance to retain domestic credibility. In reality, the regime is walking a tightrope. A full-scale war with Israel and the U.S. could be catastrophic, not just militarily but existentially. It may very well be the beginning of the end for the Islamic Republic, as popular patience wanes and regional support for Tehran dwindles. Turkey and the game of deception. Despite its historical rivalry with Israel, Turkey plays a far more ambiguous role. Under President Recep Tayyip Erdogan's 23-year rule, Ankara has postured as a regional counterbalance. However, behind the nationalist rhetoric lies quiet collaboration. Turkish-Israeli trade has flourished even during diplomatic spats. Intelligence cooperation, though unofficial, has persisted. Erdogan's regime, economically indebted and geopolitically cornered, has played both sides with mastery. There is an argument in shadow diplomacy circles that Erdogan, much like Israel's legendary spy Eli Cohen, who infiltrated Syria in the 1960s, has facilitated rather than resisted Western and Israeli designs. His survival in Turkish politics has often aligned with the goals of international finance, particularly the Rothschild-linked banking networks that dominate global capital. These connections have insulated him from coups, economic collapse, and diplomatic isolation. The real prize: energy and empire. At the heart of the storm lies the Eastern Mediterranean, a seabed rich in oil and natural gas. Massive reserves discovered in Israel's Leviathan and Tamar fields, as well as the Cyprus-Egypt-Greece axis, have sparked a scramble for maritime dominance. The U.S. and Israel are intent on securing this energy corridor, sidelining regional actors like Lebanon, Syria, and Turkey. Iran, through its Hezbollah proxy in Lebanon, poses a threat to these ambitions and must therefore be neutralized. Trump, guided by Netanyahu and the strategic goals of the Israeli-American energy axis, set the stage. Biden, while appearing more restrained, has done little to undo these maneuvers. Erdogan, for all his anti-Western bravado, has cooperated, allowing pipelines, military coordination, and economic openings to continue unhindered. Simulating the escalation, a region on the brink. Should Israel and Iran enter full-scale war, the consequences would be explosive. Here's a scenario of how it could unfold. Week 1. Israel launches a massive aerial campaign on Iranian nuclear facilities and military infrastructure. Iran retaliates with ballistic missiles against Israeli cities and U.S. bases in the Gulf. Civilian casualties soar. Week 2 to 3. Hezbollah opens a northern front from Lebanon. Rockets hit Haifa and Tel Aviv. Syria's fragile Assad regime is pulled in. Iraqi Shiite militias attack U.S. positions, prompting a U.S. reinvasion of parts of Iraq. Month 1. Oil prices skyrocket past 200 barrel. The Strait of Hormuz is shut down. Global markets crash. Inflation hits double digits across the West. Regional reaction: Saudi Arabia and the UAE, though aligned with Israel against Iran, face internal uprisings as the war radicalizes their own populations. Turkey, caught between NATO obligations and Muslim solidarity, is paralyzed. Its economy collapses. Global fallout: Russia and China, sensing opportunity, back Iran with weapons and political support. The conflict becomes a proxy World War III battleground. Nuclear escalation is no longer unthinkable. A regime on the brink, the opportunity for controlled collapse. This latest coordinated attack may offer more than military or energy advantages. It could be the trigger for a carefully managed regime change in Iran. With pressure mounting both internally and externally, the United States and Israel may be orchestrating not just military strikes, but also a political reset in Tehran. The goal would be to eliminate the clerical elite without plunging the country into chaos, a strategy used before in other regional interventions. Behind closed doors, there are signs of a deal. The religious bigots who have ruled Iran with an iron fist for decades may be offered a quiet escape, likely to exile in friendly Gulf states or even Western capitals in exchange for stepping aside peacefully. This would prevent a full-scale civil war while clearing the path for a new, Western-aligned leadership that could reintegrate into the global financial system and cooperate in future regional energy deals. Such a transition would also serve Israel and the U.S. by breaking the so-called axis of resistance, Iran, Hezbollah, Syria, and reducing the ideological backbone of anti-Israel militancy. For Washington, a new Iran would represent a strategic victory without requiring direct military occupation, a neo-colonial coup managed through economic pressure, cyber warfare, psychological operations, and elite negotiations. But for the Iranian people, this could go either way: freedom from a decaying theocracy, or just the exchange of one puppet regime for another, this time controlled by bankers instead of mullahs. Conclusion: a war of shadows, played by puppeteers. What we are witnessing is not merely a regional conflict. It is a war for energy, dominance, and survival, coordinated by entrenched elites who use states as pawns. Trump's role was to light the match. Netanyahu's was to fan the flames. Iran, already fragile, may collapse from within. Turkey, long thought to be an independent actor, may soon find itself exposed as a facilitator in a larger game. The world must awaken to the puppeteers pulling the strings: lobbying networks, oil consortiums, and banking dynasties. Without naming and unmasking these forces, the Middle East will continue to burn, sacrificed for profits, empire, and illusions of divine destiny.